Good morning. It's Friday, March 30th, and welcome to Bleed Green News. I'm Brady Blundell.
And I'm Kenzie Smith.
The next SAT test day will be May 5th. The deadline to register for the test is April 6th.
The spring session of driver's education will begin on April 9th and run through May 10th, from 3:15 to 5:15 in room 52. You can pick up an application in the office, costs $200.
The 71st annual session of the American Legion Auxiliaries Nevada Girls State will be held June 24th to June 30th at the UNR 4-H camp at Lake Tahoe. Registration forms are due by June 1st.
Seniors and parents. All senior fees must be paid prior to graduation May 25th. Please check your Infinite Campus parent portal for amounts. Emails and paper bills have also been sent as a reminder. If you plan on paying with a check, this Friday, March 30th, is the last day the cashier will accept them. All senior fees will have to be paid with debit/credit card, $250 convenience fee, or cash after spring break.
On Tuesday, April 3rd, during spring break, the Fallon Police Department and Churchill County Sheriff's Office will be conducting an active shooter drill at Churchill County High School. The district will be alerting the community of this exercise. This is an exercise for the Fallon Police Department and the Churchill County Sheriff's Office to practice real-life scenarios throughout the high school campus without students present. The members of the community will not be in any danger as a result of this exercise. However, we ask that the general public please keep their distance from the CCHS campus during this training. If there are any further questions, please contact the Churchill County School District Office or Director of Safety and Transportation, Steve Russell.
The ASVAB will be offered on April 17th. Please sign up in the counseling office before April 13th.
Michael Smaralia interviewed Mr. Johnson about the moon landing. Here's part 2.
A lot of that has to do with the optics themselves, with the cameras that were available at the time. Cameras were fairly primitive at that point. That was the 1960s. And the surface of the moon is very reflective. And there's a lot of sunlight hitting those materials, so it's very bright. It's so bright that more or less obscures the stars in the night sky. Now, if you look at some of the pictures that the astronauts took up into the sky that don't include pictures of the surface, you can actually see the stars. So what's happening there is the light from the stars is so dim that the light being reflected from the surface just obscures that light. And I've seen some of those pictures. Actually, some physicists have looked at those pictures and done some calculations. And what they found is that the surface is uneven. There are places where there are little hills and ridges. So again, that creates the impression that the shadows are cast in different directions, but in fact, they're really not. That's more of an effect of the fact that there are small hills and small little indentations in the surface of the moon that bend those shadows. Well, that's a really good question. There's no weathering on the surface of the moon, so there's no running water, there's no wind. So essentially those rocks that are on the surface have been exposed to intense radiation from the sun. They've been bombarded by heavy ions and particles, and you can see that in the surface of those minerals. A lot of the material is essentially just dust, very small particles, but there are, in the samples that were brought back, larger rocks. There's some evidence of what are called spherules, which are left over from big impacts where meteorites crashed into the surface of the moon. So that the weathering, if you will use that word, from radiation makes the minerals have a very different appearance than they would on Earth where the atmosphere protects the rocks. The rover was actually stowed. The lunar module, the craft that landed on the moon, was 2 parts. There was the lower part called the descent stage, and there were equipment bays in the descent stage, and that rover was actually folded up. It was not really assembled, it was folded up, and when the astronauts pulled a cord, that basically lowered a ramp and unfolded the lunar rover so that it could be used by the astronauts. So it went to the moon, actually assembled, just folded up. You could assemble it, but I think the concern was with the bulky space gloves, it would have been very difficult for astronauts to have the dexterity to put the parts together, because those suits were very bulky. And there was even some damage done by one of the Apollo crews setting up the equipment just because of the bulk of the suits.
Thanks, Michael. The full video can be found on YouTube.
In sports, our varsity baseball and softball teams played friendly vaqueros on Tuesday. The boys defeated the Vaqueros 6-1, improving their record to 6-1 in league play. Meanwhile, the girls lost 2-1, dropping their record to 3-1 and tying them for second place in Northern 3A.
Our track team will be traveling to the Edward C. Reed High School for the annual Reed Invitational today and tomorrow.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching Bleed Green News. I'm Kenzie Smith.
And I'm Brady Blundell.
Have a great day.